Hi students, welcome to our lesson for today, which is on integers and absolute value. So we're going to make a foldable in our notebooks today with the materials that I provided you in class. So in your table of contents, you're going to add 919 and you're going to add integers and absolute value. You're going to need to have cut out your pieces. We're going to go ahead and just say this is page 12 through 13. We're going to do some practice with this tomorrow. But basically you're going to have to cut out the pieces on your sheet so that they're like this. So around all the bold parts of your sheet and the number lines like this. So go ahead and pause the video and cut out your pieces. You can wait to cut out each of these individual ones as you're doing the activity at the end. So we're actually going to place these on the number line, but let's not cut them out quite yet because you might lose them. So go ahead and pause the video, cut out your pieces, and when you're done with that, you can restart the video and begin. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go to page 12 in our notebooks. So go to page 12. And we are with my first period class, the Otters team. So if you guys would like to give a quick shout out, a hello, you may go ahead on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, Mama, I'm doing good in class. I haven't said a bad word.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So we're going to add this to our notebook. So we stopped with page 11. So we're going to go to page 12. And then we're just going to begin to glue the things in. So absolute value is something that you guys should have already learned about. We've talked about it in class. But I wanted us to make sure that we reinforce and understand what it is, especially when we're looking at integers placed on a number line. So we're going to first put our title here at the top, integers and absolute value. And then beneath the title, we're going to take this piece here, and I'm going to fold it towards me on that dotted line, like so. And then I'm going to put glue across this. And I'm also going to, do I want to put a cut there? Yes, I'm going to cut right here between the integer and absolute value. So you can glue it down here underneath, integer and absolute value, just like that. Okay, so once you've done that, you actually have already been given the definitions. They're on the pieces. This one here, you're going to take this piece, you're going to glue it, and you're going to put it underneath integer. So take this piece and glue it. And then obviously the other one is going to go underneath the absolute value flap. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get everything glued in and then we're going to write on it. So we can have our page ready. Okay? So integer, absolute value. I glued the definitions underneath. We're going to fill in those definitions in a minute. And then we're going to take our two number lines. I think they're exactly the same, yes. So we have two number lines that we're going to use. So if you notice with the number lines, they're dashed. You're going to fold them at the dashed line. Whenever you see dashes on our foldables, that's where you're going to fold. Okay, so you're going to fold that one like that. You're going to do the same thing with the second number line. You're going to take it and you're going to fold it on the dashes. All right. And then underneath, you're going to glue each of these number lines down. Like so. Like so. That's right. All right. So now we've got it all set up with the exception of those little pieces that we're going to glue down at the end. which I've already lost mine. So make sure you guys have those little pieces. So these are the little pieces here, but you're going to set those aside for right now. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to talk about definitions for integer and absolute value. So an integer is a positive or a negative, and they are whole numbers. So basically integers are positive whole numbers and their opposites. They're not fractions, they're not decimals, they're not percents, they're not scientific notation with negative exponents, which are decimals. They are always positive or negative, and they're whole numbers. They do include 0, so you can write that here. Integers include 0, so 0 isn't included in the set of integers. So now let's talk about absolute value. So when we're talking about absolute value, we're looking at our number line here. The absolute value of -5 is going to be the distance it is from 0. So the absolute value of -5 is 5. What other number also has an absolute value of 5? 5, yes. +5 and -5 both have an absolute value of 5 because they are the same distance from 0. When we are referring to absolute value, we refer to positive numbers only. We don't say that a number has a negative absolute value, even though the number itself may have a negative value. For example, if we were saying we wanted the absolute value someone was in the ocean. If they were 10 feet below sea level, they were 10 feet under the surface of the ocean, their absolute value would be 10, even though the integer we would use to represent their where they were in the water would be -10 feet. Does that make sense? So we're still just going to use a positive number. You guys are great. Okay. So the word we use for this is kind of a big word, but we say it is the magnitude of a number based on its distance from 0. And it's always, write that on your notes, always positive. It's always positive. It's never negative. Don't confuse this with opposite. The opposite of 5 is -5. The opposite of -5 is +5. Those are opposites that you learned about last year in probably 5th grade. But for absolute value, it's always, always positive. So what you're going to do after you've copied down your notes, and again, you guys can pause the video. I'm going to take first these numbers here, the first set, where you have 3, -3, 8, -8, 15, -15, 18, -18. And I'm going to go ahead and cut these out. And I'm just going to go through numbers, 2 of them at a time. So you can cut these out. They're very tiny. Might be difficult for me to pick up, but I'll try. So very tiny. But they have to be to fit on the number line. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're thinking about opposites and numbers that have the same absolute value. So let's start with 3. So grab your 3 and you're going to glue it above 3 on the number line. So you're going to put a little bit of glue on the back and then you're going to put it above 3. Okay. So now let's think which number has the same absolute value as +3. What number has the same absolute value as +3? -3. So I'm going to place -3 in its correct place on the number line. And then what I'm going to do, oops, mine came up. Is I'm going to show that they both have the same distance from 0, like that. They both have the same distance. So if 0 is there, -3 is to the left, +3 is to the right. I don't think we're going to do that for every pair, but for that pair I want you to see that they have the same distance. And now I'm going to take 8, and I'm going to place 8 on the number line because it has a distance of 8 from 0. And then I'm going to put, what's the opposite of 8? A -8. They're opposites, but they have the same what? They have the same what?
Value.
What kind of value? They don't have the same value. They have the same absolute value. So I'm going to place a -8 there. They have the same absolute value. They have the same distance from 0. Okay, now we're going to go with negative and positive 15. So first I'm going to start with positive 15. I'm going to place it here. Looks like I cut the corner of mine off. And then negative 15 is the same distance from 0 on the other side of the number line. So they're opposites, but they have the same absolute value. And I'm going to go ahead and do that same thing with the negative 15. So that we can see that they have the same distance from 0. 0 being here. Same distance, just one is to the left and one is to the right. Bless you. And then the last one, you guys go ahead and do 18. Same thing. 18, we're going to place it positive 18, which is what it is. And negative 18 on the other side. All right. Negative 18. Okay, so now that we've looked at numbers and their opposites and how they have the same what? Absolute value. We're going to take our other set of numbers here, and you are going to place them on the number line. Now this symbol here, if you notice, let's see if it focuses for me. Those two lines are the symbol for absolute value. So this here was 6, that's the absolute value of 6. This here is the absolute value of -4. So you're going to place each of these numbers, you're going to cut them out, and then you're going to put them on the second number line. So go ahead and do that. So like this one that says absolute value of 10. What's the absolute value of 10? It's not -10. That's the opposite. What is the absolute value of 10? How far is 10 from 0? 10. Because absolute value is always what? It's how far it is from 0, and is it ever negative? It's never negative. It's always what? Positive. Okay, and so then we have, I don't know if this is 6 or 9. Do you guys know? 6. Okay, so the absolute value of +6 is what? 6. The absolute value of -19 is what? It's +19, yep. Because it's the absolute value, it's the distance from 0, but its absolute value is actually positive. The whole point of this is to get you, even when you look at negative numbers, you're recognizing that they're positive. This is a very sticky activity today, these little numbers. All right, so let's just keep placing them. Positive 4. The absolute value of positive 4 is 4. Okay. What about negative 16? Where would I put negative 16? Would I put it as positive or negative? Does it have the absolute value symbol? So it would just be placed at negative 16. Okay. And then we have 2 more. We have positive 8. Positive 8 we're going to put above positive 8. Like so. And then the absolute value of negative 15. Where will that go? Positive 15. Good. And then our last one. It's a miracle I didn't lose it. With all these little pieces. Okay. The absolute value of positive 4, or negative 4. What's the absolute value of negative 4? But there's already a number here. Is that okay? Yeah, I need to just put it above or below. Because they have negative 4 and positive 4 have the same absolute value. At the bottom of your notebook, when you're done with this, I want you to write an I can statement. I can, from this activity, think about what we just did. I want you to fill in the blank. You're not writing I can ... You're writing what I can do based on this lesson. It has something to do with absolute value. So think about what you learned to do, what you could do from this lesson. Maybe you already knew how to do it, but what can you definitely do now that we had this lesson? You're going to fill that in, and we will practice absolute value in class. That's it. Have a great day. Hold on. Technical difficulties.